put them in for?
You're in it, Brooke.
I am.
Yeah, and it's recording right now.
Sorry. I thought it was my hair. Okay, so here we are. I'm gonna demonstrate the wheel, and then all you guys get a chance to do this. You will get as many chances as you need, but you'll have at least one chance, and you have to have one pot. So the first thing I'm gonna do, just like we talked about before, my story starts at the miry pit. And this is my miry pit. And this is too much clay, so I'm gonna cut it in half. But basically, I will be getting you the clay. And we talked about all the supplies you will need. So the only thing left is the clay. Now what you're gonna need to do is wedge your clay. You will be getting new clay, so it's easier to wedge new clay. You'll know once you get it, it's a totally different thing, and you'll never wanna go back to that miry pit. Okay, so you're gonna make kind of a sphere from it. Because the closer it is to perfect before you start, the better it's going to be. Okay, so in Psalms it said, "He lifted me from the miry pit and set my foot upon a rock." We talked about this a little bit when we did the pinch pots, but it's really perfect to work on here because back in the Old Testament, they had potters and they had potter's wheels. They were not electric, they were man-powered, which means they had a big rock at the top and a big rock at the bottom, and they just used a foot like this to turn the bottom rock, which turned the top rock. Lots of work, and you usually ended up, having a really big muscle on this side and the other one. So, when they were out in public, everybody knew the potters because they walked in circles. Thank you for laughing. Enough, guys. Let's keep going. Okay, so basically what I'm showing you today is how to throw a pot. Now, that sounds like something else, like you're going to throw a pot. Well, I don't know why it's called throw a pot, because here, what I'm getting ready to show you right now is the only part that even looks like throwing anything. And that is when I'm going to put the clay on the wheel, and I'm not going to throw it. So anyway, I'm going to basically guide it down with some strength, try to get it in the center. It won't be perfect most times, maybe close to perfect. And then it's never going to leave my hand. It's actually going to be pressed down, and you'll see my fingerprints. So ready? Y'all ready? Do I hear noise over there?
Yeah.
There's people.
Is it mice or people? Hello, come on in. Okay, so ready? I'm going to throw it. And that is how you throw a pot, but that's just the beginning. Okay? So now I'm going to show you there's 3 parts, actually 4 if you count taking it off the wheel, but the first one is going to be centering. Okay, now centering is important. Who's the center of the universe? God is the center of the universe. Everything revolves around Him. Are you guys the center of the universe?
No.
Neither is this clay. Because this clay has to do what I tell it, or it will not ever become what it's supposed to be. Okay, so I am potter, this is clay, so that makes me God to this clay. And when you guys are on the potter's wheel, that's what's going to happen with you. So hopefully you'll be able to make a pot, otherwise the analogy breaks down at that point. Okay, because God always gets what He wants. Okay, so you're going to turn it on full speed ahead. The fact that it's making that noise means that I need to make sure it's down on the nuts a little bit. There, that's better. See the vibration's gone? Okay, so to center, I have to be centered. So first my chair is centered, my body's centered, and I'm going to make sure that my hands are secure. And the way I'm going to do that is take my elbow and stick it into my hip bone, okay? Because this clay cannot move all 30 pounds of me, okay? That was another joke. This is a hard crowd today. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put myself in a position that this clay has no choice but to be centered. And it's going to be in the center of my will, okay? Because I'm the potter, it's the clay. So I put my elbow here where it can't be moved, and I'm going to put a straight hand here. I'm actually going to try to make it into this shape. Okay, that's the template that I want to make this clay look like. And as you can see, it's got a straight side, and then it's got a flat top. So the next thing I'm going to do is take my, like a fist, like my palm, and this part right here is going to make the flat top. Now, working together, these things are going to make this shape to start with. The problem is, if I don't connect these hands, then the clay can divide and conquer. Okay, you know the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, right? Well, they always work together. Okay, the Holy Spirit never says to Jesus, well, I don't like your way, I'm going to do it this way. I mean, if that happened, we're in big trouble. They always work together. They're connected. They're like one. So you're going to connect just like this. You're going to take your hand using both those things I just said, and you're going to connect it. Now, the way this works out is you end up being a triangle, like the Trinity, okay? And if you do not work that way, then the clay may get ahead on you, and he's going to end up destroying himself, because that's what will happen without God, is you destroy yourself. Okay? All right, so the next thing that needs to happen is, remember when we talked about the water of the Word, when we talked about wedging. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add water to this, because dry clay can't do much. But you add the water of the Word, it refreshes and rejuvenates, and then it creates a slippery surface so that my hands won't stick to it and take all the clay off, and the clay ends up all over the wheel. Sometimes people, when they're throwing, forget that they have to put water on there. The clay starts to get really hot. Miss Collins, it's hurting me. And then what happens is the clay ends up all over the wheel, and it destroys itself because it didn't get the Word of God. It didn't get the water of the Word. Okay? So you ready for me to do this?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not gonna talk when I do this, because my multitasking breaks down when I'm actually centering. But I'm gonna push in with this and down with this together, with my elbows down, everything centered. You ready? Now, one thing you noticed when I first put my hands down, they were doing this, right? They weren't still. I stopped it, still wobbling a little bit. I stopped so that I want you to be able to see that. When we struggle against God, okay, He puts more pressure until we listen to Him. And sometimes it takes a lifetime. Some people don't get centered ever because they just refuse to submit to God's hand. But this clay's going to submit to me, I'm going to make sure. Okay, so I'm going to do it one more time. You can see kind of the little bit of buffeting going on. But I'm just resting my hands now. I'm not putting any pressure. That's why I can talk. When I start putting pressure, I'm going to stop talking, like right now. Did you see where my hands stopped moving? I won't do this unless I'm telling you what it. My hands stopped moving. Did you see it? My hands just stopped. Did you not see it? Should I show you again?
Yes.
Look, I'm just going to show you how right now my hands are staying absolutely still. You can't even tell that there's clay going underneath it because my hands are completely still, right? Okay. Well, it's centered under my will right now. That clay is centered, which means now I can move on. Now we got a little bit of an issue down here. This clay on the wheel, when I start doing the next part, that might cause me problems because my hand might not fit right on the wheel. So we're going to take the rib tool at this angle, not here, but at this angle. Because if I do it here, then the clay is going to come off. If I do it here, the clay is going to go back on to the pot.
Oh, wow.
Right? So a little bit pruned off. Now you'll notice that when I'm throwing, I have a lot of little clay buds right
Nails
here.
on chalkboard.
Sorry. No, that's worse. I grew up with that. So this right here is pruning. Has there ever been a situation in your life where something you really cared about was taken from you? Okay, now we could say, okay, cell phone, you're putting it. Okay, but think of something really important in your life that was maybe taken from you. You tried out for a team, or maybe you did this. And for me, it was ensemble in the junior year at Winter Park High School. I had been at Trinity. I had been in ensembles my whole time since like 7th grade. Been in choirs my whole life, back since I was old enough to sing. And I went to Winter Park High School. I was the top sight reader there. I went to All-State. But when I went to try out for the ensemble, I actually played my own song. I got up and I danced at everything they asked me to do, but I did not make the team. I wasn't as good as everybody else, I guess. And it crushed me, because one of my best friends was on there, so I thought I had it, down. And it really messed me up, because I thought, that's the end. Yeah, I thought it was I'm not good enough, it's me, I'm a bad person. So at that moment, I was already kind of making bad choices, but at that moment, I walked on the dark side. I just went I ended up hanging out. Back then, this is going to make you laugh, because you can't even picture this at the First Academy. At Winter Park High School, there was a smoking lounge for students.
What?
Yes.
There's still?
No.
Okay.
Here's their thought process, guys. I mean, you just tell me if this sounds good to you. They thought if they had a smoking lounge where people could smoke, that it would keep them from smoking in the restrooms. I mean, I look back and I think, what idiots, okay? So anyway, that's what they thought. So I started hanging out with people in there. Now, understand, the people that hung out there were all losers. They thought they were the cool kids. Just like there's people at this school who think they're the cool kids because they're out partying and doing all things. Ooh, I'm grown up, I can do this. Guess what? That road leads to death. It leads to destruction. In my life, it's those things. There is nothing I can tell you that will glorify the things that I did. Like some people, oh yeah, I used to do this, yeah, I was cool. No, you're not. You're a loser if you're doing those things. Okay? And that's what I was. And I hung out with people who did that. But, so anyway, we're digressing a bit. Let's go, we're going to go further on. That was the pruning. So when I got the ensemble taken from me, I was pruned, and unfortunately I did not seek God. I sought other things. But that's where it breaks down. So when you guys lose something, even if it's your cell phone, what could you do? You should go to God. Okay, I lost my cell phone. I lost this team, whatever. What, God, then do you want me to do? And if I had done that, I would have gone a different path. You know, I wouldn't have been in the belly of the whale quite so long. Let's just put it that way. Okay, so I'm going to get it. It looks like it's wobbling just a little bit, so I'm going to get it back to the perfect place. I'm going to put some pressure. And then I'm going to slowly lift my hands off, because if I lift my hands fast, what happens is you jiggle it and it comes off center. Can you see that it's perfectly centered? Can you see that, you know, if I put my finger here, it's not going to do this to my finger? Okay, because that's going to be important for you guys to be able to recognize that. Okay, the second thing, that's stage one, centering. It's centered. Okay, that's the hardest part. And if you move on without the center, you're done. It's not going to work. Okay, so do not, if you get on the wheel one day and all you can do is center, that's good. Just do that. You'll get on again another time, and then you can move to the next step. Do not try to go past this if you don't get it right. It is not going to happen. All right, I say that so emphatically because people do it all the time. I have people in Ceramics 3 who don't center it, and they think, oh, I'll just keep going. No, it just wastes clay. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put remember when we did our pinch pot? First we got the cylinder, and then we did what to it?
Made a hole.
We made a hole. We gave it a heart, right? Well, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so this is, there's a right way and there's a wrong way. I'm going to tell you the right way. And you guys can choose how to handle that. You no longer have to put this in your hip bone. You can now just rest them on your thighs, okay? But you're still in your trinity. I'm going to connect my fingers in just a minute. Okay, does anybody know what a record player is?
Yes.
Okay. I'm making a record player right now. This is the record player. I'm going to put my finger on it. It has to be wet, or it will, see, did you see how it took my finger when I didn't have wet? Okay, I'll let it do that again so you can see it. On a record player, I'm going to put my finger at 5 o'clock. Look at the clock, look at the 5. If you can't read time, can you figure out where 5 o'clock is? Okay, so I'm putting my finger at 5 o'clock, right down here. Okay, what I'm going to try to do is keep the top flat while drilling a hole. Okay, now this is kind of complicated if you're not careful. First of all, you're going to open your hand, because if you close your hand to do this, your knuckles can gouge in the side. So if you open your hand, they're not in the way, right? Okay, so you open your hand, you put it in on 5 o'clock. I'm going to take my other hand, remember I told you they had to connect, and I'm going to put it right over my knuckle, and here's why. Okay, this knuckle has to stay flat so that it keeps your top of your pot flat. But look what happens when I let go. Okay, it's like, it won't stay flat if I let go. And so your pot will not be flat if you don't hold that down. So I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to hold that knuckle down right like that. And then watch, I'm going to stop talking for a minute. I'm going to drill down the middle. Okay, now look, my top of my pot is still flat. If I had not kept my knuckle down, it would not be flat. Now I went down to about this much, about 3/8 of the bottom, like that. It's not quite half an inch. I did that because it's going to get a little bit thinner, and you don't want to make a donut, right? If you go too far, you make a donut. Okay, so I'm going to put a little water in the pot. Now, remember the whole talk we had about man sees on the outward appearance, but God sees the heart? Can you guys see the heart of my vessel over there?
No.
You can't? Okay, so you can't see, you have to get closer. Trey had to get closer to the heart of my vessel, so he had to get closer to me. So when you are judging people on the outward appearance, right? Right?
Right.
Do we do that ever? Does anybody ever judge on the outward appearance? Kind of do. Now the Bible does say you can tell a tree by its fruit. So if you see a scary masked character walking around your house in the dark, like with a gun in their hand, you probably shouldn't run up to them. You should judge that situation. Okay? So don't misunderstand the Bible when it says thou shalt not judge. It doesn't mean you shouldn't determine good from evil by looking at things, okay? It says if you must judge, judge righteously. So therefore, he had to come close to me to see the heart of my pot. And guys, did we see the heart of some people today at chapel? Yes. Did we see the heart of some people we didn't know before? Yes. Does it make you feel just a little bit more like merciful to those people? If you see them in the hallway and they like run into you, are you going to be less apt to chew them out? Because you saw more of their heart. There you go. It's proof. Okay, so now we're going to open the heart though, because this heart's not big enough. If I want to take a drink out of this pot, it's going to be over very quickly. So I'm going to then, it's going to be well, I don't know. It depends on what you do. We'll see. Okay, everybody pull out your pirate hook. Arg! Arg, matey. Anybody? Arg! Arg! Okay, you're going to need a pirate hook for this. So you're going to open your hand out, and you're going to put your pirate hook in there, and you're going to hold your wrist with the other hand. Again, we're in a triune, like a trinity. And I'm going to actually take this hand and pull my pirate hook back, okay? So that it opens up this pot. Are you ready? Yes. Okay, I'm pulling it. That's a big heart. There you go. And that's as big as you want to go. If you go bigger, the biggest mistake people make at this stage is to go too big. And what happens is if you go too big, you're so far out away from the center that you can't control it. And that's what happens to us when we are away from the center of God's will. Guess what happens? We're out of control, right? So you have to stay at the center of God's will for you in order for Him to keep you safe and be under that umbrella. Okay, so now we're almost done with stage 2. The last thing is, if you can see, the middle is not flat. It's got this weird little dimple. So what I'm going to do again, I'm going to go into my trinity and I'm going to hold my wrist and I'm going to use my thumb and I'm just going to flatten the bottom. You don't have to do much here. This is probably the simplest part of the whole thing. I'm just going to flatten the bottom. Okay, it's flat. Okay. It's not done yet. But I want you to know that after the first 2, where you do it full speed, you now are going to go down to 3rd speed. Please don't forget this. If you try to do this 3rd part at that speed, it's too fast.
What's in there? There's like a little
water. Clay. Just a little piece of clay. No big deal. Okay, that's too fast. There we go. Okay, too slow. 3rd speed. Okay? Now another thing, when you're getting ready to, when you're working on your pot, how many drive? Anybody drive a car in here? Okay. When you're driving down the road and you see I was going to say pretty girl, but we shouldn't say that. Let's say you see a dog on the side of the road and you turn and look at it. Guess where your car goes? That direction. So if I'm on my wheel here and I'm doing stuff and I look over there, my hands are going to go there, and guess what I just did in my pot? Lopsided. Are you guys getting creative over there?
They are.
Okay. That's really funny. Okay. So we are going to lift the pot, but if I'm sitting next to you and I start talking to you, you need to take your hands off the pot. Yes, Mrs. Collins. Don't do yes, Mrs. Collins, because you kill your pot. Okay. Now, I am going to do 2 things before I start. I'm going to take my rib tool and I'm going to just cut a little hole, a little ridge in the bottom. This is called the lifting ridge, or the lifting shelf. Okay, there's some pruning right there. Okay, that just gives me a place to lift from. The second thing I'm going to do is get into my position. Again, elbows on thighs, and everybody get your left hand out and make a pincher. Remember the pinch pot? This is what pinches it. This is what's going to make it thinner, and this hand over here is what's going to take the pincher up the side of the pot. Here's what you don't do. Pulling it up with a pincher. If you do, you might end up taking a donut off the top. Okay? That happens. So if you take a donut off the top, Miss Collins, and you're holding a donut, I know what happened. Okay? All right, so I'm going to take the water, and I'm going to put it right on 5 o'clock. Again, everything happens at 5 o'clock. I'm going to lift up the side of the pot, just like that, with my 2 fingers touching the pot. This one at the base of the pot, and this one just sitting here. It doesn't do anything, but it stabilizes. And then when I get to the top, I'm gonna take that lifting finger and I'm gonna block in to keep my rim squared, okay? Ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Wow.
And then I'm gonna square the rim. See how that squared the rim back up? If you don't square the rim back up, then you will end up having a weird top. Now, the first, I'm gonna say 3 pulls, you're probably gonna have some weirdness come off your pot. Some just little pieces of clay that just come off. That was lift number 1. I'm gonna make another lifting ridge, and then I'm gonna do lift number 2. See the weirdness? And the hard part is ignoring that. Because you wanna go, oh my gosh, it's weird.
What if you like the weird?
There we go, see? Make it blocked. Now, I can take my fingers and very carefully kind of hold them against the pot to get this weirdness off of there. Okay? You can also stop the pot and do it. You know, stop the motion and do it if you want to, but yeah. All right. So I'm going to do it again. Another lifting shelf. More off the bottom. And after the 3rd time, I'm going to get a little bit more drastic on here, but if I go too fast the first part, I may mess it up and then I'm done. Okay, I feel something coming up. It's starting to come off, but I'm okay. I'm holding it steady, holding it steady, holding it steady, blocking the top. See, got this stuff?
Where's the, there's gook.
Yep, it's good.
Gook.
But it's, every time
There
I do it,
is.
there's a little bit more good, but it's coming off. Okay, now I'm gonna get a little bit more drastic because I feel like I've gotten the surface pretty good. And if you have a little bit of a problem, usually it goes away. Let's see. Sometimes the problem, you know what happened first period? I threw a much bigger pot, but I kept having a problem, couldn't figure out what it was. You know what it was? There was a piece of hair in it. Yeah. So
That's disgusting.
I
What
ended
if
up
you like the weirdness? Because that kind of looks like something's melting off of it, and that kind of looks cool.
on a wheel pot. On a wheel pot, this is your goal. If you want 100%. Now, if you don't care about 100%, that's fine. I can grade you down. But for a Ceramics 1 student, this is a 100 pot. The rim is about, just like in a pinch pot, the rim is about the thickness of your pinky. It's not going to be this big. This is twice as much clay, but I do this so everybody can see it. It's going to be the same thickness. It's going to be symmetrical. There's not going to be a tall side. This one's actually starting to cause a problem with the tall side. So I'm going to go into a knuckle pull. I'm not going to tell you how to do that because you don't need it in every circumstance. So.
What can we use this pot for?
Nothing right now, but you could use it for, this pot right here could be as big as a soup bowl if I wanted to make it that big.
How do we make it that big?
You have to get thinner. That one that I just showed you, that was the 100, can go twice as big. This one's already thinner than that. Okay, now I can feel that my base is really thick, so I'm going to go back down, and again, I'm doing everything at 5 o'clock. I'm just going to thin out this area here as I'm coming up. All the way to the top. And then I'm going to block in the top. If you don't block in the top, you'll start to have a weird edge. And mine is fighting me. So it's very possible that this pot will cause, when I go a little further, it may cause some destruction. There may be something in there. And that happens sometimes. It even happens to people that are like YouTube people that are throwing the whole big old thing. Sometimes they fail. So, all right, I'm gonna just maybe pull this one more time. You notice I'm taking my hands off very still, very carefully, because if I don't, that's when things go bad. Okay, now this is, you know, kind of a boring pot, but this is as big as you can make it if you want to. This is thinner than what I just showed you. This is more of this is a Ceramics 2 pot, okay? So, but I went a little further just so you can kind of get an idea. And of course, when you get to be good at this, you can use more clay. When you use more clay, you can make bigger pots. Okay, so that was stage 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to do number 4. This is taking it off. We're finished now. We're going to take the rib tool. And see the bottom is just kind of bulky.
Use the other rib tool for.
Huh? Oh, I'll show you that. The base is kind of bulky, so I can use either one of these angles, and I'm just gonna kind of cut some of that off. I'm gonna cut it off, and then I can turn my rib up the other way to kind of fix whatever comes off. What's going on up here? Was that there before? What? Oh, it seems like no, it's gone. Okay. She asked me what I use this rib for. This is a decorative rib and it's optional. You do not have to use this. This is really good for covering up errors. So if you want to fix the errors, you just take it and do this and no one can see anything, right? Isn't that nice? You can also just take your finger and kind of go up the side and it'll make a spiral. So whatever. But basically that's your pot. Now what you're going to do when you're finished, you turn it off and you take a little bit of clay and you smush it on the bat, and then you write your initials in it. Okay, now taking it off is important too. Okay, the bat, if you try to take both sides off at the same time, if it's really thin, it might just completely collapse. So you loosen one side first, and then you just keep pulling until the other side comes off, just like that. And see my initials right there. You take it and you're gonna put it on which shelf in the kiln room?
The unfired shelf.
The unfired shelf, the
back.
one straight ahead, the green, in the back. Good job, guys. Awesome. And that is how you fill a pot.
Yay!
Yay! Yay! I don't need to
We did it!
Yay!
I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Here we go. Wait, Enzo, can I see the camera?
Kel, do a move. Jiggle, jiggle.
Yeah, very zoomed.
Jiggle.
Okay now, guys, that camera is worth about $600 and belongs to the school, so I recommend very highly that you put it away now.
You're